Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's stream, Monster Talk. We are here with our beautiful and mysterious keeper of mysteries, Jason Russell, who is our keeper for Duke City Chronicles, and myself. We're going to have some other friends popping in. We're just going to welcome them as they arrive. Um, we are going to be talking about our favorite underrated monsters. There is a couple that we feel like can get some more spotlight. We're going to talk about ours, and we're definitely interested to know yours and kind of like look more into that background. And this is a part of our creepy month celebration. We started yesterday with Colin's painting and kind of prepping you all for what's to come this week and next week and on actual Halloween day. We have tons in store, so many that I can't even like remember all of them. We have a witch talk coming. We have a number of community games in our Discord. So if you're not there yet, pop into it. We have some amazing DMs with some really interesting stories to run you through for this very spooky season. We also have a costume contest, pet costume contest. You have where's your familiar at? Show us your familiar in a costume. And we just have a number of really fun things. They are all listed out in our Discord, all our events. So do pop in there, check them out, see what you like, what catches your eye. Ooh, we also have some tarot card reading in the future for all of you diviners out there. Um, Come and let and tell you about your future and your life in general. She's really talented with tarot cards. I'm very picky. I mean, me in general, growing up with tarot cards was a little different than what I was used to. But Anne has told me a lot of different things, like her reading and learning about it and knowing the ways to do it safely and thoroughly. And her reads, when she reads you. So you will be seen. So yeah, so be sure to stop in periodically, and we might even have a couple of other new events pop up out of nowhere. So keep an eye out. Jason, are you ready for me to toss it to you, my friend? Hmm. But you can hear me though. You can hear my vocals. How does GW sound? I've been talking for like 5 minutes. If I've been talking for 5 minutes, yes, okay, they can hear me.
Okay, can you guys hear me now?
Testing 1, 2, 3, Jason.
I think you can hear me now.
C, yes, I know that bit of Spanish. I know 4 words in Spanish, and C is one of them.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so I'm in charge of the stream tonight, and so you can tell because. Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love it. I can't wait until I get my level up computer so I can do this too. I'm
Yeah.
just looking at you and Jason. Look at your layout and this creepy guy in the background.
Creepy guy in the background. Yeah. Okay.
But as you keep setting up, I can keep going.
Okay, I think people can hear me. If you can hear me, please just type in GW into the chat. Just those two letters.
Uh, what?
A little echoey. Great. Okay, cool. Let's figure out why.
How interesting, Jason. I have to say, I really appreciate you making me sound good.
Uh huh.
You give and you give and you give, but I'm gonna need you just to take a moment and think about yourself. I want you to sound good. Your voice, Yes.
Yeah, it is a little echoey. I've got two audio things happening here, and I don't know why. So, takes care of one, but that's not what I want. Okay, okay, monitor off. Okay, that might do it.
As you're doing
Okay.
that, hello, Chelsea Bill. Hello, Silver Tongue. Hey, Silver, I haven't seen you in a minute. How you been? Adam
AD
Jr. What's up?
MJR is in there. Yeah, they're always in there. Wait, I'm not. Oh, hey, it's Suki. Okay, I'm not.
Trotsky,
Okay, one.
what's up? I, I miss you. I just want to hug you. I know I saw you like 2 days ago or more. I don't know. I don't know what time it is, but I always love seeing you. Hello.
Yeah.
For those of you who aren't familiar with Trotsky, that is Bridget, aka Suki, from Duke City, and is she here? Hi.
um,
Time is a flat circle.
time is a flat circle, yo. Okay, so I think. I mean, this should be right, but now I'm not seeing stuff that I really think it should be there. DM mic, audio. Okay, that's coming through. That's good. Properties, monitor. Okay. All right. Um, hey, chat, can you guys hear me still? Because I'm like just trying my best over here. Monitor off. Okay. I'm just like going through everything that's here in Streamlabs, making sure I'm not messing things up. Okay. I mean, I think I'm here. Uh, good, good. All right. We're going to continue. Yeah. So hopefully everyone can hear me. Yes, Jason, way less echoey. Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. Awesome. I've done it. I've harnessed the power of Halloween. So yeah, we're excited to have Suki and Bridget in the chat as well because Duke City Chronicles is coming back tomorrow, which is really exciting. And so we're ready for spooky season to do all these things. And we're going to have some other people jump in here. If you're part of the Fable fam, let us know if you want to jump in and make your case for like your best underappreciated monster, because that's what this stream is all about. It's just us hanging out, chill vibes, just chatting and making a case for why our monster is the best monster and why it gets no love and it's just underappreciated and should be loved a whole lot more. So yeah, does that pretty much cover it? You think, G-Dub?
I think so. I think you said it perfectly.
Excellent, excellent. So I know I picked one. I know you picked one. I think Anne's going to probably join us here in a little bit. But do you want to talk about your monster first?
Yes,
I'm
I would
really
love to.
excited for yours, actually. Um,
Which one? Because I did.
let's do
So before I
that.
start,
Let's do that first one.
okay, all right. So an underappreciated monster that I have always loved. I don't know if it was because of the imagery of it, and of course, in different places, you always see things are always depicted differently, particularly in where you look. Or maybe it's like the little mythos I know of it. Um, or maybe it's just because like I rarely see it and it's just like, oh, this is mysterious, why is no one talking about you because you're really cool. I have always loved the Wendigo. um
You're frozen in my. Oh, there we go. Okay, there we go. Yeah, you were frozen for a second. We should get down. All right.
okay. um so the Wendigo is my number one underrated monster. um I, the visage of it that I am most used to seeing, and that's kind of what I love about it so much, is it's tall, gaunt,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Creepy.
very creepy. Just everything is just elongated. It has like this draping fur, but only bits of it in places because its skin is falling off, and you can see so much just wet muscle and just decay all over it. And something that's really kind of a focal point of it from the ones that I've seen and the ones that I love is that I normally see it with a horned skull for a
Yeah,
face. You don't know if it's a face or a mask,
right. And
but
just so you know, in the on the stream itself, I've got two pictures I thought were really rad in
oh
that little box down there. So if you look, you can
yeah,
see it. And one looks like a mask for sure. The other one is incredibly gaunt, and I
mm,
don't think that's a mask. It's a kind of wild.
yes, it has gnarled antlers, just horrid skull as a face. Usually, like there's glowing circles in the skull, and it is often seen from what I know. I don't know too much about it. We're gonna go into it, but it's more often seen in the woods, a creepy wooded area. There's often mist and things, and something that is I don't think it's as known about it is it's kind of a master of mimicry. Like,
Really, I did not know that
yes,
about the Wendigo. Like I'm
yeah.
aware of some of the mythos, but okay, so do tell.
I don't know all the nitty gritty, but I do know that it can mimic anything it hears, like animals, a woman calling out in the fog, help me, uh, just anything. And I have also heard, again, not entirely certain, I've also heard that it mostly mimics things that are dead or that it's killed.
Yes.
Not 100% on that. I've just heard that. And I just think it's so freaking creepy. Just how it looks alone, where you
Yeah.
find it alone, its mimicry skills alone. It's so creepy. How does this is this not getting more screen time?
Yeah.
I have to
I
keep myself from making one shots that are all centered around Wendigo because I just love them so much.
yeah. I think maybe it's a lack of curiosity because I think a lot of people think that they know because um, Wendigo is a reoccurring villain for Marvel Comics, right? I think that's where most people know Wendigo from. One of the first things that Wolverine fights. It's a common thing with Alpha Flight, the Canadian superhero team, but it looks more less like evil elk and more like something more simian, more Sasquatch like. Um, doesn't have the horns, doesn't have the gauntness to it. It's more just like abominable snowman, but like wants to eat you. And then the other thing I think most people know is that it's related to cannibalism. So hashtag sorry, but yeah, it's one of those things like that's why I think it's always portrayed being so gaunt is because it's about unchecked and unfettered desire, a desire that leads into a kind of madness. And yeah, so it's super cool. And I mean, it also has the added benefit of being part of um, several people groups, several cultures active in current mythos. One of their myths, just like we have like Bloody Mary or La Llorona. There's a lot of Inuit and Aboriginal and Native American, Native Canadian people groups where this is the scary story that they tell, and so that that kind of story is always changing and always adding. So, what is it about the Wendigo specifically that you were like, this should be getting more play, this should be getting more attention that maybe people don't realize or haven't really noticed before? You're muted, man, or something.
Hey y'all, what's up? So I think how it looks alone deserves more attention. Like, okay, like think of the more common popular monsters, the vampire. They're
Mm-hmm.
human and androgynous or whatever, and then we have the werewolf that's just a big husky wolf. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I, I get it, but at the same time, it's kind of bland. It's just like a man wolf. And then you have this one's gonna hurt, but I'm just gonna be real with y'all. It's gonna hurt because it's one of my favorites. But the mummy, like, okay, granted, you could see a mummy in a whole bunch of different ways, but typically it's just wrapped up in bandages. Maybe you see some gold, which I love, but the Wendigo, there is just so
Okay,
much.
I want to challenge you there with the mummy though.
Yes.
Like, okay, imagine you got like a little 5-year-old kid, and they're like, they
Mm-hmm.
can't go to sleep because they're scared, and they're
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm afraid of vampires, and you're like, vampires aren't real, it's okay. I'm afraid of zombies. Zombies aren't real, it's okay. I'm afraid of werewolves. Werewolves aren't real, it's okay. I'm afraid of mummies. Okay, good night. Mummies are like real.
that they are, in a sense, they are. I mean,
In
they
a
definitely
sense,
are.
okay, every
They definitely
Egyptologist is
are,
just like
but like,
suddenly upset somewhere in their smoking room in England.
but typically, it's not. Depending on how you look at it, it's not completely. It doesn't grab your undivided attention as a Wendigo. If you saw even like a quarter of it in the woods, you're gonna
Oh yeah,
and
no,
your
for
eyes gonna be this
sure.
open. You're gonna walk slowly to the back, not turning yourself. You're
Mm-hmm.
gonna make sure you keep whatever it is in sight. So I think just its looks alone would
Yeah.
deserve it a seat at the social table.
Yeah, I think you're right because the look of it definitely goes in like like whatever the uncanny valley is for like beasts, like regular
Mhm.
animals, it falls in that because one of the pictures here that I have on the screen, it has that weird like, dog or elk or deer kind of like double backward knee thing that it
Mhm.
has. And then and then the arms are way too long. And then there's like the gauntness and then the antlers, right? Like
Mhm.
it is, you're right. Like there's something really, really wrong about it.
Mhm.
And the to the point where you can't like, oh, it was just a big wolf. Like you can't like explain it away. Or
Mhm.
like, oh, it was just a deer with mange. And you're like, nah, like chupacabra
No.
is just like coyotes that have like mange.
Mhm.
That's the the government line, if you want to, um, but it's yeah, so it is kind of like buck wild. Like you cannot easily explain it away. Um, I'm gonna send something here to our friend so they can talk about why you should never whistle in the woods. Yeah, Score Screen says, yeah, and maybe have a heart attack. Yeah, absolutely. Um, okay, we'll get Bridget all set up here.
Oh my God.
Oh
Hi, y'all.
Okay, it's gonna be buck
my!
wild for a second, y'all. Just 1 second while I get everything set up.
Oh my God. Oh
Oh,
my God. How y'all
oh,
doing on this monster stream?
we're doing good. And we just so much. I love your
Don't
face.
don't look at how messy my room is, okay? You gotta promise me you
We're
won't do
not here
that.
to judge
I
you.
won't. I
Listen,
don't
we'll
see it.
only we're
All I see
only
is
We're
Bridget.
here to talk about monsters.
yeah,
And
we'll only talk about monsters if there's one right behind you. Dear God,
oh,
Bridget,
fantastic. Cause
look
I
behind you.
cause I have my creepy little ghost window right there. I'm just waiting for some creepy face to like come up there at one point.
We'll tell you. We can
One
partially see
day.
it. We'll let you know if we
Yeah,
see
no. If anyone ever tells me to like turn around, there's something behind you on stream, I'm not gonna do it because that's how you get killed on stream.
it.
Wait,
Well,
not looking at it fixes the problem?
Yeah,
I don't know if
I
that math checks out, Bridget.
I don't know if I trust that logic.
I have the Irish Catholic sort of
Oh,
way
yeah.
of looking at things where it's like I don't see it.
So it's not real. Like I feel like that's very confessional based. Like if I do a certain thing, it can't hurt me. Like I
Mhm.
don't know.
Yeah.
Like there's something
And
going on there.
And
You
I
don't
do
look it in the eye.
I personally feel like, you New Yorkers, it takes more than like just like, oh, something might be behind me, whatever.
Yeah,
I'm in,
Something's
like
always
I live in
behind
New
me.
York.
Are you kidding me? Like, as something is always happening behind me.
like if you saw a Wendigo just like traveling like the blue line, like would you even blink?
Uh, a little. Well, because I'm a big whistler, so I whistle all the time.
Wait, you're a big fan of
Um,
whistling, and this is the problem?
yeah, yeah. Well, I whistle through my teeth all the time as like an absent-minded sort of thing, so I can never go to Appalachia because you can't whistle in the woods in Appalachia, or else something's gonna come get you.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
Um,
that's true. There's a lot of like
yeah,
Appalachian like boogeyman stuff that's kind of buck wild. That even
yeah.
I'm not really, because my family wasn't like that, like boogeyman stuff. But apparently, like there's like you see those like direct decorative like wicker almost like brooms and stuff that people have in their homes in Appalachia.
I literally have one hanging from my front door right now.
Okay,
It's soaked in cinnamon.
tell us why. Tell us why. Do you
Well,
know the myth
cause
behind it?
you sweep out bad energy and you sweep in good guests, and it's soaked in cinnamon because uh, cinnamon is good for health, wealth, and the overall vibe of your home. You gotta get witchy with it, babes. Like, there's nothing. Just get witchy with it. Like,
Getting witchy
it's
with it. No, 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 no.
witchy with it.
the closest thing
But
that I've
yeah,
heard to that is you. I think if you sweep in a specific direction, I think I heard something about
clockwise.
that clockwise.
Bridget knows it like that. Which
I'm trying. Like I grew up Irish Catholic, so now I'm not really Irish Catholic. So it's I kind of love the whole pagan witchy sort of vibe. I think it's like such a nice thing to include in your life. Um and it's a lot of like fun little things where it's like, you blow cinnamon at your door at the beginning of the month to have health, wealth, and good visitors. And like, why not?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay,
Read tarot.
so can you I don't think I missed it. Can you tell us why, with your own personal experience, why we shouldn't whistle in
Well, so I grew up in Pennsylvania, in Scranton, Pennsylvania. So that's like an old coal mining town. So that's in a valley surrounded by mountains.
oh, that's
And
not
I
good.
was, it ain't good. It ain't good.
Mm-mm.
It ain't a good time. Floods, ghosts, both. Floods of ghosts. No.
Ghosts that cause
But
floods.
ghosts that cause floods, whatever. But so I have always been sort of steeped in the spooky. Like I like it. It's a fun thing to do. Um, but I know that you never whistle in the woods because whistling in the woods brings things to you. Because whistling is, I'm trying to remember literally the old lady that yelled at me for whistling. I'm trying to remember what she said to me. It was something like whistling is it's on a certain frequency where it's like otherworldly things can hear it and they're like drawn to it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
do you know that that goes back, harkens back to a Scottish and like Norway, Finland, kind of the Norse countries called the Wild Hunt, which I think we probably know from Wild Beyond the Witchlight, where there's this like, and I don't know it completely. I only recently learned about it, where there's this rider who has been cursed to never leave their horse because they loved hunting more than they loved something else, whether that's God or family or that was their only thing. And so now the thing they loved has become this curse, and they call out on this wild hunt to bring all of these lost souls with them and hunt through the night. And sometimes, if you mimic the calls of the wild hunt, they'll reward you, or they might just come to your house and take you with them, and you'll never be seen again. And
Ooh.
the fact that the South, and I'm going to go on a limb here and say every rural part of the country has a lot of the same vibes as like the South, which is just all one big rural thing. Um,
Open spaces, man.
yeah, it is like you said,
It creeps you out.
woods and valleys. I'm like, nope, I know better than this. I've seen that movie.
Bad
Um,
times.
and so I wonder if it's not a harkening back to the Wild Hunt, where it was like, hey, if you hear like hunting horns and dog howls in the middle of the night, the witching hour, don't call out because the Wild Hunt will come for you. And considering a lot of the similar, ancestry of people from the South coming from Ireland, Scotland, and all of that, I wonder if that's not, their version of the Wild Hunt.
I mean, it's very possible. Like that's the thing. It's like very Irish and very Scottish.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, coal miners. But that reminds me a lot of my favorite cryptid.
Let's
if you'll
go.
Let me just.
Yes, I will.
If we can move on from the Wendigo, even though the Wendigo is fantastic, and like fascinating. My favorite cryptid is the Kelpie, which is an Irish and Scottish. I think it may not literally translate, but it translates to water horse.
Yes.
So that one of my favorite stories in Irish folklore, because I love Irish folklore because it's full of ghosts and witches, and those are my two special interests. But
Same. I relate. I relate.
yeah, like kind of. So a Kelpie is an entity that appears at the water's edge of a lot of large bodies of water, lots of lakes, rivers, especially in Ireland. And it entices either travelers or children to touch it and to ride on it. And once you touch it or ride on it, you get stuck. It's a sticky horse. And
like a mimic?
Sort of, yeah. But it's like you get fused to its back, or you get fused to whatever part of it that you touched, and it runs into the water and it drowns you.
Yeah.
And then once it drowns you, it eats you.
I have a picture of it up on the stream now.
Yeah.
You're so quick, Jason.
I can't get sound right, but I can get this right.
The quickest.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's my favorite, because there's a story about a kid that outsmarts the Kelpie. All of his friends decide to ride upon it, and he grabs the bridle instead. And because he grabbed the bridle, he's able to let go. Oh. And everyone else, all of the other village's children in, Bumfart, Ireland somewhere, go into the river and die, and he's able to let go, and he goes and tells everybody, hey, there's a sticky water horse, don't touch it.
There's a sticky horse in the water and don't touch it.
Dear God.
Yeah.
Can you imagine horse
telling that to kids? They're gonna be like, I could do it,
Well, that's the thing. Like, especially like little Irish kids, they're like, watch me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think
they throw their whiskey on the ground. They're 7, and they're like, I can do it.
Yeah.
Okay, let me read from the Wikipedia. So a Kelpie, or a water Kelpie, is a shape-shifting spirit inhabiting lochs in Scottish folklore. It's usually described as a black horse-like creature able to adopt human form. Ooh.
Get a sexy lady too. It's almost always a sexy lady.
Drowny lady. Some accounts state that the Kelpie retains its hooves when appearing as human, problematic, leading to its association with the Christian idea of Satan, alluded to by Robert Burns in the poem To Address the Devil. Okay, so like a pan thing going on. Almost every sizable body of water, gotta love Robbie Burns, in Scotland has an associated Kelpie story, but the most extensively reported is that of, and you guessed it, Loch Ness. The Kelpie has counterparts across the world, such as the Germanic Nixie, the Hwynlin of South America, and the Australian Dunyip. Dunny-up. Yeah, that sounds Australian. The origins of narratives about the creature are unclear, but the practical purpose is keeping children away from dangerous stretches of water. In New Mexico, we have La Llorona. We don't need no horse. Warning young women to be wary of handsome strangers has been noted in secondary literature.
Yeah.
Interesting. I was literally about to say too that we don't it's not just like mermaids we have to worry about, it's this, and then you was like they can also take the form of
Of a
oh
cute
okay.
boy or girl.
Wow,
Mhm.
you just these water vixens,
They so tricksy.
they so tricksy. That's really interesting.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because it looks like, I mean, of course, there could be a number of different ways that it's depicted as, but it looks like it's a very majestic kind of horse creature that can only be creepy in a certain light like that.
Yeah, this current light. Yeah, no, like that's the thing. It's like that's what I love about like cryptids and folklore is it's always trying to like trick somebody. Like
Yeah.
it's always trying to like I have no other purpose except to be a sticky horse in a river. Like it's, just
No, you
trying to
want
get people to eat
they want that sweet, sweet human baby flesh. I mean,
them yummy kid
kick
flesh.
kick
Num num
kebab.
num
Yeah,
num.
kick
Kid
kebab.
kebab.
You heard it here first, people.
Oh
Bridget
It's
no.
always
is advocating for child eating.
For child
always the
kebab.
babies. They always want to go for the babies.
That's
Meat
right.
on
Yeah,
bricks or
but
whatever.
that makes a good point though. Like you said, that a lot of these stories have their roots in teaching like practical lessons via culture and stories and myth of like, hey, don't loiter around bodies of water you could fall in and die. Um, and I think, like we said, like mermaids, like I know we're all like, oh, Little Mermaid, she just wants to be free and up where they walk and run and play all day in the sun. But like a lot of the old mermaid myths are like they gonna like sing a song and lure you into the water and then kill you. Like they're
Mhm.
related to sirens. And
Ravenous,
There's
and
ravenous beasts.
exactly. And
yeah.
then the Kelpie is part of that mythos too. And then also, like, as you guys well know, La Llorona from Duke City
Yes.
Chronicles and
Yes.
Supernatural, and just being
Yes.
in a Spanish speaking place um, where it's like, hey, she gonna get you if you play around uh, bodies of water. And we have flash floods here, which makes a lot of sense. And in the original story, unlike what I did in Duke City, she wants to kill children. So it's like really important. But I wonder now, though, looking back, don't eat babies, Scorch Queen, thank you. Um, there's one thing we take away from this, guys: don't eat babies.
Don't
And
eat the baby.
Look,
speaking of
look.
eating other people, the Wendigo has strong ties to cannibalism. Do you think?
Yeah, I
that-
actually know this fact.
Yeah, like, is there what's like the cultural moral there, other than hey, don't eat people, which I think should be a pretty easy sell. Maybe
Well,
I don't know.
the thing that I have learned of this is that one becomes a Wendigo by killing and eating the flesh of a blood relation.
Oh.
So, like, if you like kill your brother and eat him, now you can become a like wolf guy or
With-
like an elk guy.
With cool like antlers and get invited to Krampus's Christmas party.
Oh, Krampus's Christmas party, so fun. So many switches. But
Okay, but like, doesn't Krampus abduct naughty children
it does, and then
and
hits
then
him with a switch,
and then hits them with a switch and then takes them to the Wendigo? Okay.
and then eats it with.
Takes
This
them to
is
the Wendigo?
not a
Yes.
live
That's the
episode of
thing?
me writing the next Duke City Chronicles. Okay.
Oh, okay.
No.
But yeah, that's all I've done very limited research, and please
Yeah.
anybody who knows more than I do, because I know there are people who know more than I do. That's what I have heard and learned.
But that makes sense
Please
though,
in the
like
chat, let me
especially
know.
because Wendigo typically comes from North America, Canada, and the Yukon and Alaska and such, and the native people groups there, where I wonder if there's not some kind of lesson there of like, hey, I know times can get tough, and there can be emergencies. Where you're like, well, Uncle Bill did die during the winter, and we're out of food. We already ate our boots. I mean, he's just sitting there not doing anything. And like, because there's like mad cow disease and prions and things that can actually, do significant, irreversible, lethal damage to you from things like that. And so I wonder if that's not like a story that's born out of, hey, no matter how bad it gets, no matter how bleak the winter, don't do this. Because, I mean, if it is a prion disease that's, comes from this practice, you would see a very real physical change in the person that would be really easy fodder for, oh, they're changing into a monster.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it changes you on such a different level. Like it's interesting. There's a story of a man whose name I'm forgetting right now, but he's like known as like the cannibal of the Donner Party.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all know the story of the Donner Party?
I do, but go ahead and tell it because it bears
Okay.
repeating.
So it was a wagon train of people, and I believe the 1850s.
1846, 1847.
Oh, not bad.
You
That
were
was a good
you
estimate
were
on my
right. That was
part.
really good.
Ain't bad, ain't bad. So 1846. And they were going across the country, and they started off late. Like it wasn't great. Um, there was like a death in one of the families, so they ended up getting delayed. Um, and also they were following the track of this guy who was one of the con men of the Oregon Trail, which was like, yeah, you should go through the Utah desert and then over the mountains. It's totally cool. And they were like, great, perfect. And it's very interesting. There's a point right before the Utah desert, the like salt lands, the flatlands, the Great Salt Desert, Great Salt Lake. Um,
Yeah, I think so.
yeah, where the party actually split. So half of them went on to the normal route to California, and the other half of them, including the Donners, went to the other side and followed this con man's path. And they got about halfway through the mountains after most of their oxen died. And it literally was like, so there's this great book called The Indifferent Stars Above, all about the Donner Party. And I think one of the quotes was something like, they went to sleep one night, and then the next day they woke up buried in snow.
Yeah.
Like there multiple people like sat up and looked around and were like, oh my god, the wagon train left me, because it was literally like 3 feet of snow
Yeah, there
above
was an
everybody.
uncharacteristically early snow. Yeah,
Yeah. And so they had to post up at Donner Lake, which was not called Donner Lake at the time.
because if it was only
But
called that, that would be wild.
that'd be crazy. They'd be like, wait, our lake? Oh no, it's our lake.
I was just waiting for us the whole time.
But there were like multiple search parties went out, multiple like rescue parties that tried to go out. But eventually one actually broke through and was like, you gotta know these people at this lake. And this rescue party came to this lake, and they described, I believe it was like walking corpses or walking skeletons with stained fingernails and sharp teeth. And it was, yeah, and like the creepiest part, the creepiest
Oh,
too.
there's more. Good.
Yeah, no, it gets worse. Oh, honey, it always gets worse. But the worst part was children, because the children had actually eaten their blood relatives. Because that was the thing. It was like
Wait, I
most of
missed
the
something.
Donner Party,
What was the word? The worst part is what?
The children, GW.
the children,
Oh, I'm
Okay.
okay.
the creepy children.
Tread lightly, please, just for the sake of just everything that's holy.
Oh yes, sorry. Regulatory and stuff. So, it they when cannibalism was happening,
Mm-hmm.
they made a point. Like there was like an actual record of people being like, you shouldn't eat your relatives. And unfortunately, because the children were left behind on Donner Lake,
That really wasn't possible.
it wasn't really possible. And it was strangely like the children were really okay with it. Everyone else was really horrified by it, but the children were like, yeah, like it's what you do.
Yeah, you give your life to give me life. That's how, the natural order of things, mother.
That's how it works.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
reading the
sorry,
Wikipedia
that's the
as you're
worst
talking.
thing.
No, I know. I'm realizing I'm like I don't have an X card, and I really would like one now. And I'm like, just tread lightly because I mean it's historical. I
Yeah.
get it, but I'm all if I'm having a problem, maybe other people are too. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean I think
Sorry,
no.
everyone.
I think we're fine. Just treading lightly is good. I'm reading this too, and like I mean, there's like all of the I hate to say tropes, but like common pitfalls of being stuck in a blizzard for months. Um, it's here. Like the one part here that I read that says that as the blizzard progressed, Patrick Dolan, one of the people, began to rant deliriously, stripped off all of his clothes because he had hypothermia and couldn't feel the cold. It felt like hot to him, and ran into the woods and returned shortly afterwards, and then died a few hours later.
Yeah.
And then that's when it all started, uh, the incident of note. Yeah, and there was like a bunch of rescue attempts that just didn't work. Like there's like
Yeah.
3 rescue attempts.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay,
It
so
turns out the real cryptids are people.
Oh yeah, we're the worst.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring
No, it's
cannibalism into the
I'm
chat.
definitely looking-
I
but-
started it. It's fine.
After this talk, after the stream, I'm definitely gonna be looking up like this on my own. So like let's look.
Yeah.
There's
Well, I mean,
there's a great podcast. One of my favorite podcasts of all time is Last Podcast on the Left, which is a like true crime, like it's always hard to say the phrase true crime comedy podcast because like
no.
those things
I
are
like it.
antithetical. But that's the thing. It's like it's if you can look the monsters in the eye and laugh at them for the losers that they are, then they don't really win. But they also do really great like historical series, and they did one on the Donner Party, which is where I got all my information that I just told you guys unwillingly. From.
That knowledge you inflicted upon us. No, I'm kidding. It's fine. It's fine.
Sorry, it's my special interest, man. Like
No,
looking at the
absolutely.
worst of humanity is my special interest.
Well, I mean that puts it to a good point because the idea that humans are the real monster is not a new idea. And if you guys might remember that terrible Will Smith movie, no, not that one, another one, called I Am Legend, which
scared the life out of me.
It did. It scared me too because I don't see. I know people are like, oh, he's the keeper of monsters and mysteries. I don't like scary stuff. Not really. That's why my stuff is more mystery than horror. But that movie is all about he's like the last guy living in New York City after a zombie apocalypse, and the zombies are like hunting him, basically, but like intelligently. Like he has like this fake relationship with a mannequin at the movie store during the daylight hours because zombies can't come out in the sun. It burns their skin.
Fred.
Right. Yeah. He's like got a friend with it. And then at one point he goes out and the mannequin's in a different place, like in the middle of a street in New York. And he's wigging out and he gets closer to it. And it legit, I think, like captures him in a trap because the zombies from the shadows are watching this and going, oh, that matters to him, and use it as bait. Now in the movie, he like frees 2 other people who are also immune to the virus to get them free, and pulls a grenade and kills everybody, including himself. But in the book, the ending actually makes sense with the title because he realizes that the zombies aren't really zombies because of the virus. They're just the new version of humanity now, and they have higher thought and love and empathy and all these things. And to them, he's the legend. He's the boogeyman who walks in the day that they're all scared of. And there's a few brave zombie souls who are trying to trap the cryptid that is him. And so it's a wonderful example of we are the monsters that all of the monsters are afraid of.
That's really interesting.
It is. And I haven't read the book. I just know it from the critique in IMDb on the movie, because I will always watch a Will Smith movie.
So we talked about my favorite underrated monster. We talked about Bridget's. I think it's time we talk about yours, Jason.
Thank you so much, GW. Today I'd like to talk about the Loch Ness Monster and why it is not what everyone thinks it is. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. So here's what everybody knows about the Loch Ness Monster. Not only does it have some similars with the Kelpie, there's even myths going back saying that, you know, if you try to ride on Loch Ness Monster, you'll cling to it, it'll drag you down into the depths, and you'll die, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's even reports of the Loch Ness Monster going back as far as like 533, like, and with like regular sightings and like kind of like long held beliefs that, yeah, Loch Ness Monster, it's there, or there's something in the loch, along with all the other fairy stories and myths and legends and all these kind of crazy things. And what's really great about the Loch Ness Monster is because, one, I think is the setting, because Loch Ness it's the largest body of water in all of the United Kingdom. It's bigger than all of the other lakes in England, Scotland, and Wales put together. It's massive. It's 22.5 miles long and 1.5 miles to 1 mile wide, and has a depth of 754 feet. It has.
Ooh, I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
Yeah, if you don't like deep dark water,
I don't like that.
I'm so sorry. You can go back to our cannibals and talk instead.
Okay? Oh, sorry. I'm so much more comfortable with cannibalism.
Other than the very natural thing of water. So, yeah, it's got 263,000 million cubic feet of water. It has 7 different rivers that flow into it, and it can rise in elevation from 2 extra feet, which is common, to 7 extra feet. Just a 1/4 inch of rain adds 11 million tons of water to the loch because of how big of an area drained that direction. Not only that, the bottom is almost perfectly flat. The water is brackish, deep, and full of just like floating logs and things, so you can't see the bottom. You can't get good sonar readings, and because of its depth, that below the first 100 feet, so 600 some odd feet below, it's always exactly 44 degrees, and the loch will never freeze, because as the colder water acclimates to temperature and environment and atmosphere, that colder water starts to sink, pushing warmer water up. And on really cold days, the whole lake can just like steam, because it keeps pulling this relatively warmer, almost geothermal-like 44-degree water to the top, so it never freezes.
Ooh.
What?
Right? Okay.
My brain don't understand.
I know. I don't know. I don't get that. I don't like it.
Right. Okay. So here is my thesis with the Loch Ness Monster.
Okay.
The Loch Ness Monster is great. The problem with the Loch Ness Monster is that it is location based, right? Like, there's not a lot of other cryptids that are so uniquely trapped to one place. Now, there are other like lake monsters, even, I think, Bridget, you probably know this, at Lake Champlain. There's Champy, right? Which is like,
Champy.
Yeah, and it's like, I heard about that when I lived in Montreal, just a few minutes north, and I was just like, okay, whatever. You guys wish you were a Great Lake. You've got your own little, like, really sad, big catfish that you call a monster, who no one cares.
Yeah. Monster.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to get Lake Champlain people being like, how dare you?
Come at me. Like, where's the evidence?
How dare you?
I'll tell you, Qu'est-ce que tu fais? And so, but like, yeah, there's other like lake monsters and water monsters and things, but nothing really has captured the imagination like Loch Ness Monster or Nessie has. But like I can't put it in like game like Monster of the Week where Nessie's just in an alley downtown Albuquerque, just like, hey, you guys want to buy a watch? Like that doesn't really work, right? So
I mean,
she okay. Listen,
How you
we
doing?
still has episodes to go. Don't test me.
He's just gonna start throwing every cryptid at us. Like that's
Yeah.
the thing. It's like I'm
Mhm.
sure our final battle will be like a battle royale of
Oh,
like.
oh, for sure. You have a guy who's your BBEG who could change reality. Like I
It's
just
true.
I
He could
get.
drop a Nessie on us.
Mm-hmm.
oh, that would be the worst day.
It would be the worst because
He's-
Nessie's done nothing to us.
No, exactly. And
We love Nessie. Also
yeah, and that's the great thing about Nessie too, is that Nessie, the general vibe with her, presuming, is she's kind of beloved. Like a lot of people just love Nessie, that she's there because she's not a boogeyman, she's not a cautionary tale. She is just this thing that people keep seeing glimpses of and have since in modern times for almost 90 years. Since 1933 was the first like modern like sighting of her, other than like some legends from the 1800s and then like jumping back, like I said, to the 500s AD. And so she's just such a different kind of, if you'll excuse the pun, beast when it comes to cryptids, because other ones really do follow the concept of the boogeyman, right? The Kelpie and the Wendigo and all that. So my thesis is, if Nessie is real, everyone is looking in the wrong place, and if they knew it, she would be relatively easy to find.
where do you think she is?
Well, let me tell you some information about some of the earliest sightings in the modern era in the 1900s, okay? So,
Before you go into that, quick question, just really quick. You said that it's really difficult for sonar to be used in the lock. Why?
because there's so much debris, you're bouncing
Yeah,
off
it's the kind of
literally
stone, right?
everything in there. All of like
Yeah.
the fish and the logs and branches and leaves and everything else, because the kind of watershed for it is so large, everything gets pulled into it. It's a beautiful lake, but the water just has stuff in it.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so that's why. It's not magic that we know of, but it is because it's such a target-rich environment that it's not really going to work, even for something as big as Nessie is purported to be.
Isn't there also a theory that there's like sort of an ancient cave system underneath the lock that Nessie could be hiding in?
Right, and so again, I think that kind of goes to what I want to talk about, because I think it's just pointed in the wrong direction. Okay, so let me give you like 4 or 5 stories from the 1930s and one from the 1970s. So the first like modern day sighting came from May 2nd, 1933, where Adele McKay saw something in the water. Saw an enormous creature, the body of a whale rolling in the water in the loch, and she and her husband John were driving on the new road that was kind of made along the shoreline, because there was a new kind of like bridge or dam or something they had built that kind of also fixed the road. So now there's more people driving along the loch. Rolling in the water, and they stopped. They looked at it, and a bunch of other people stopped and looked at it too, and saw it like rolling and plunging for like a full minute. And it was like they called it like a whale kind of thing, but it was like the water was like just churning over it. It had enough bulk to really move the water really heavily with a bunch of foam and things. And there's other onlookers after they saw it, like who were like kind of rubbernecked and came over and looked as well. And they were like, yeah, the whole thing looks super weird. And they were like, yeah, that can't be a normal thing that we've seen in the loch of the lake before, because of the size, the way it moved, even the way the water reacted to it indicated bulk. And then it was gone after about a minute. So that happened. That was reported in May 2nd, but it actually happened in April 15th of 33. July of that same year, there's a guy named George Spicer and his wife who were driving on the road next to the lock. And they had to hit the brakes super hard to avoid hitting this giant creature that was crossing the road in front of their car. Okay, this is Nessie on the land. Has either of you ever heard this story before?
No.
Exactly.
Yeah, because Nessie on land, because it's little flippers, right? Like it's little.
But is it though?
Why is she going up there?
This is
what
not
you
even
doing,
the
Nessie?
first story I'm going to tell you about Nessie being on the land, all from within less than a year of each other in 1933. It crossed the road in front of their car. They described it being about 4 feet high, 25 feet long, with a long wavy neck, and they couldn't see if it had like flippers or legs or whatever because of the way the road was. They couldn't see the bottom half of it. It lurched across the road toward the lock 20 yards away, leaving a trail of broken underbrush in its wake. It had an animal in its mouth, and it quickly ducked into the lake, and they couldn't find it after that. They could just see the waves cascading out from where it entered the lake. So this tells us a couple of things if this truly is Nessie. One, it can live on the land and move around, and presumably well enough to outpace a couple of shocked motorists. Secondly, it had an animal in its mouth, and it was going from the land to the water. It didn't come up out of the water with some fish in its mouth. It found like a badger or something and ate it and was taking it back into the water where it wouldn't be disturbed.
Nessie.
Right.
Nessie, get back in the. Nessie, stop it. Nessie, cut.
Be a good girl.
Pow.
Get back in that lock.
And just does it.
All right.
Bop it on the nose.
And then
No.
we have the case of Arthur Grant. January 5th, 1934. He's on his motorcycle going to a party, and he claimed to have had nearly hit the creature while approaching the city of Aberchan on the northeastern end of the lock. It was like 1 a.m., full moon, and according to Grant, he almost hit it as it was crossing the road from the land back into the lock. Grant was a veterinarian student who knows animal anatomy and described it as a cross between a seal and a plesiosaur. That's the typical, plesiosaur is the typical lapis Pokemon, like flippers, long neck kind of thing. But he described it being a cross between a seal and a plesiosaur. He dismounted, tried to follow it to the lock, but it was already gone, just ripples. And he even did a sketch of what he thought it looked like and showed it to a zoologist named Maurice Burton, who stated that it was consistent with the appearance and behavior of an otter. But he almost crashed into this thing because it was big, right?
So it can't be that, like, because otters are little. Like, they're little guys.
Yes, exactly. And so if you guys look at the stream, I have a picture of the artist reenactment of it. And I even have the picture
the famous pic.
With the motorcycle, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so there's also this picture of this is what he drew of what he saw, which kind of does look like a cross between a dinosaur and an otter.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Now,
do you think it's possible that it was like one of those like evolutionary leftovers? Like that's a thing with the Chupacabra where they were saying like it's some sort of evolutionary whoopsie daisy that like just ended up in the right place where it could just survive for long.
Exactly.
Enough.
And considering that the bottom of the lake, the bottom 600 feet and change, is always 44 degrees,
I don't like it.
there's no way it could be a cold-blooded animal. So in 1933, before all this, in November, a guy named Hugh Gray went out to the lock and got a photograph of it, the first known modern photograph of it. And it's not great, but when they kind of did some analysis of it, and he even talked about the way it moved, that it looked like the way an otter moves through water. And like it was like turning and rolling in things. And you can see it there.
Hmm.
And then in 1933 as well, in December, a guy whose name, which I cannot make up, Marmaduke Weatherall.
Marmaduke.
I'm sorry. That's ridiculous. That's honestly,
That's a
I have a
great
harder
name.
time believing that
Yeah,
Marmaduke Weatherall existed than a large dinosaur at the bottom of a Scottish lake. Let's be perfectly honest with ourselves.
yeah, Marmaduke Weatherall. So in December of 1933, before the motorcycle incident, a big game hunter and also I think he was like a scientist of some kind, went to locate it. And along the lake shores, he found large footprints that he believed belonged to a very powerful, soft-footed animal about 20 feet long.
20 feet long.
Hmm.
That's too big.
It's too big,
That's too
right? It's too big. And then we have a way overlooked sighting from 1973 that's not exactly a sighting. So we're jumping now 40 years because this sighting isn't actually a sighting, but it goes to my thesis, which is Nessie lives on the land. And that I think Nessie is a land based aquatic creature that maybe even sleeps on land. Because in 1973, there's this guy named Mr. Jenkins who was trying to repair his tractor on the shores of Loch Ness. It had been on an incline, it had been broken down for a few weeks, and he's trying to get it going again, but the incline made it weird. So he tried to start the tractor using kind of a chemical like accelerant to get the motor going again because the angle wasn't really his friend, right? And it was only maybe, where is it? I have it here, maybe about 20 feet or 12 yards from the surface of Loch Ness. And he finally gets it going. He used the accelerant. It makes a loud pop. Even his wife hears it back in the house with the double pane windows. And when that pop goes off, he hears something jump into the water with a huge splash. He runs over to look what it was and just sees ripples. That something not 12 yards from him was sunning itself, presumably, or something like that, heard the loud noise, spooked it, and jumped into the water. He gets the tractor going, he moves it, and then a few minutes later, he looks over, not too far from that, and 5 yards from the end of this jetty that's in the water, there is an animal that emerges quietly and smoothly about 45 yards away, going parallel to the shore, comes up out of the water. And it has a long neck that moved 80 degrees to the water, and when it sped up, it went 60 degrees to the water, like an ostrich lowers its neck to run faster. And there was no sign of any fins or horns or anything, and it didn't kick up a lot of wake, meaning it was adapted to this thing, like a dog doing the doggy paddle, and then until it eventually went below the surface and you never saw it again. And oftentimes, especially in those early modern days, it says that Nessie was oftentimes swimming quite swiftly away from the shore. My thesis in my TED Talk is that Nessie actually is a land-based creature who also is adept to being on the water. And everyone's looking on the water, everyone's looking for secret underground caves, everyone's looking for sonar and stuff. But there's all this evidence, especially from the early parts of the 1900s, that highly suggests that Nessie is just adept at being on land as is the water, and probably breathes air, and could find a den, a nest, or even tracks if they looked. They just need to turn their cameras around. And that's why Nessie is my favorite underappreciated cryptid.
Interesting.
Bravo.
Very interesting.
That's a good shout because I lived in Scotland for a year.
I know.
So I've been to Loch Ness. I dipped my toesies in Loch Ness. But more than anything, I've been to the town of Inverness, and
where a lot of sightings are.
Lots of like it's sort of it's such a lovely town. I went to a really fun ceilidh there, but to get to Inverness, you have to drive through the Scottish Highlands. And the Highlands, it's one of those places where it makes you feel so small.
Yeah.
Like it is just so vast, and like the mountains are so huge. And like Scotland's a teeny tiny little country,
Yeah,
but
but it's still
like
the wild, untouched places.
it's the wild bits. And like I mean, I could see something that big hiding somewhere
Yeah.
all up in there, cuz like we were on the road, and there was like we were driving up one of those like crazy winding roads, and uh I was there for grad school, so a good amount of the people in my grad school program were American, and the person driving the car in this instance was an American. So it was a deeply terrifying experience to be driving on one of these crazy winding highland roads with a woman who's used to driving on the opposite side of those roads. But at one point, um, we saw like four cars like pulled over to the side of the road. And so we were like, yeah, I mean, I'll check it out. And so we pulled over, and there was an elk, a a true Scottish Highland elk, which is like 8 feet tall, big old thing. And it was a bunch of like tourists like throwing bread at it, and it was like having the time of its life. But
Just chucking wheat.
just chucking weed at it. And but that's the thing, it was like it was one of those moments where you feel so incredibly small
Yeah.
in the moment of like in the environment of where you are. Like this is a creature that lives here and is adapted to here, and we are not creatures that live here or are adapted to
Yeah.
here. And
Yeah.
he's big.
And you don't really get that very much in America unless you come out west. You know,
Yeah,
and go to places like Montana and Wyoming and those kind of places where you're like,
the endless horizon.
whoa, you know,
Mhm.
where you start to believe some of this stuff could be true. And Scotland's like that. Like you said, it's not a big place, but so much of it is untouched, which I mean segues into a interesting like cultural thing about Scotland is that like Ireland as well, they both have this kind of vibe where every few hundred years some conquering army would come in and wreck everything and say, "Ah, you belong to us now." And they get mad about it. And so they were never really big on infrastructure. It was always about home and hearth and yours and what you could manage on your own and yourself. And so a lot of Scotland and a lot of Ireland just remained untouched. And a lot of those Scotch Irish immigrants came to the South where they had that same feeling. And a lot of Appalachia, going back to your thing about you don't whistle in the woods, has that same kind of vibe. There's a lot of parts of Appalachia that just are continue to be untouched and a little bit spooky. And there's good cultural and historical reasons why they wouldn't try to develop these lands, but it adds to a level of magic and mystery and the unknown to these really beautiful places. And it's kind of beautiful the way that it syncs up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I love a good conspiracy theory. And so, my conspiracy theory is that Nessie is some kind of warm blooded, long necked seal of some kind. I mean, heck, if you even look at, you go to the pier in San Francisco or LA or Long Beach, and you see the seals, they stretch their necks out pretty long. They can get pretty big. And like you said, what if it's some kind of holdover from a previous time where they have this great hunting ground, untouched, pristine nature all around them that works for both their aquatic and land based life? And so I think Nessie is a bit more familiar than we like to give her credit for. And of course, the fact that the sightings have endured for over a century, going back, a millennia and a half, makes me think that there's a whole bunch of them. There's a family.
Yeah, there's got to be
I
at
was
least a
kinda
couple.
thinking- I was when you were talking about, I feel like the general populace, I could be horribly wrong, knows of this possible creature to be pretty big, but then as we hear about certain different sightings, it's kind of like the size changes.
The
So it
sizes are
could possibly be.
inconsistent.
It could possibly be
Yeah.
a multi.
Right.
squad.
And a lot of people will point out like that, lizards and different kinds of creatures along those lines, lizards, amphibians, and such. And I think we're going to wrap up here pretty soon. But that they can get really, really big, and they could live as long as they don't, get attacked. They can live almost indefinitely. Like sharks are like that, right? They'll get as big as crap.
Oh no.
What?
Hold on.
We've
Did
shifted
Liz
to the
fix it?
left.
I fixed it. I fixed it. Yeah, look at me. Haha.
Look
Okay.
at you go.
Look at you go.
But yeah, shark-
Fix
Ah.
it.
So-
Sharks and like
Yes.
snakes are like that.
Yeah,
too. I feel
sharks
like-
can just like keep living, and they get as big as their environment allows them to, and they're like, oh, that's why Nessie's so big, and it's like, yeah, but the environment we put her in is way too cold, it's way too small. There's lots of fish and things, but this is just not the biome and environment and temperature that allows for creatures of that ilk to get so big. Now, if it was a family, a continuing generation of mammals, then heck yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I only have to use
crazy.
my dungeon master imagination to make that plausible.
Can I just say I love that one of our favorite monsters was land-based, one was water-based, and the last one was both. Can I just why are we
Aquatic.
just so balanced? Like what's happening?
Why do we do
Listen,
that?
we've been
keep
playing
doing that.
games together for a very long time, and
Okay, you know what? We all are wearing glasses in unison. Can we do that one thing when we go? So on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. Mm.
So smart.
actually, I think Loch Ness. Okay.
Well, actually.
Awesome. So I don't think this is going to be covering all the ground, smashing. Thank you, Scorch Queen. Yeah, so I don't think this has to be a super long chat tonight. I really do appreciate, Bridget, you like jumping on last minute to come be spooky with us.
Very happy to. I'm
Uh,
so sorry that I brought cannibalism into the
No, listen, no, it's fine. Because it was sensitive to me, it made me realize, oh, maybe we should tread lightly
Oh
on
God,
some
make
of
it
these
stop.
things.
Yeah.
No.
It's not the first time, nor will it ever be the last.
No, I mean, listen, there's a certain element of turnabout fair play because, I run spooky games for you. So I'm all, yeah, this is fair. This is fair.
Gotta go.
Everyone's got to get their comeuppance. But
I actually gotta get going.
yeah,
So,
absolutely. Go ahead and go, and I'll play with the overlay. But Bridget, thank you so much for all of
Bye,
your
my
awesome
friends.
stuff. I love it. And chat, unless
was
there's
so
a specific question you have for us, or you want us to talk about a specific monster, we might just call the stream here. What do you think, G-Dub? You comfortable with that?
I'm down to call it
Yeah.
a good stream if no one has any monsters they want us to chat about.
Yeah. I can't leave us looking like this, so I have to.
Before we leave, we have to leave clean. We have to look.
Yeah.
we got to be in our frame.
Well, no one think of the replays. Yeah.
They won't know.
This blighted thing will never see the light of day after this. In the words of my friend Distal, delete the VOD.
Don't you dare.
And then let's make this one go away. Boom. I think we look pretty good. It's
I
not
think we look
perfect,
good
but-
too. Jason, do
Yeah.
you know how, from your end, do you know how to rate us into another stream?
I actually do, because I run the streams for Duke City, and I know how to raid.
Oh yeah.
Theoretically, do you have someone in mind that we can send all of these? See, look, I want you to look at the chat right now. Escorts Queen, there is an emote for delete the VOD.
Delete the VOD. Where is that from? What is that?
That's from Distal's Palace. There's some friends of ours for the Convergence who always are so super supportive, and they're a bunch of hood rats who do hood rat things,
Nice. I
and
might check them out.
we're always glad to see them. But is there anyone in particular you'd like to raid? I've got a couple of friends on right
Yes.
now, or if we have some friends of the channel. Man, I've got like 4 personal friends on here right now. Dang.
So, well, actually, who do you want to?
Well, I
Which
mean,
of your?
so we could do Jackie Alana Chan, who's playing Phasmophobia. We could do Sir Pfeffers, who's doing D&D. My friend Dead Oz Gamer, who's running Pathfinder. We could
Mhm.
do Lightbox Gnome, who only knows it says Thirsty Thursday E-Girl October. You know what? Let's not raid Lightbox Gnome.
You know what? Let's go to Jackie, who's doing Phasmophobia. Let's keep this creepy.
Yeah, let me jump over there so I
And
can
spin.
grab everything that I need. And I will look for my um, cheat sheet of how to raid.
Thanks, Scorch Queen. I had a lot of fun on this talk.
Yeah,
I
this was
love.
great.
It's so rare that I get to kind of really get into the nitty gritty with cryptids and monsters and all the like because it's not some people's jam. Some people can't handle it. So I very much appreciate my time with Jason and any friend that would allow me a conversation of the paranormal type.
Yep. All
So,
right, guys. GW, I love this. It was so much fun. We're going to raid Jackie, who's doing some spooky content. Thank you guys for hanging out with us and get in the comments if you want to talk about other monsters. But let's go ahead and raid, and we'll see you tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific for the Duke City Chronicles. Bye, guys.